We're going to take a look at steep face jumps. Steep face jumps cause a lot of fear for a lot of riders. And one of the reasons for this is that we have to go high in order to get the distance that we want. So in this video, we're watching one of my current instructors, Chris Severns, a few years ago as he's learning to gain some style in the air in order to create safety. What we're going to see here is that he's actually pulled forward slightly in his arc here because he runs out of space in his arms. So we're going to see here his elbows, he's got a bit of elbow bend, but then at the top of the arc there, we're going to see his arms get completely extended, and we see him getting pulled forward in a way that's probably not super comfortable for him. Now, in order to fix that, because this is a steep face jump, I'm going to have to actually get Chris to start making some movement in the air. This is one of the reasons why we, at some point, will need to start creating some style in the air, because on a steep face jump, essentially, we need a very steep arc. So on a steep face jump, we need a much steeper arc here than we would need on an equivalent jump that had a flatter arc. So if this jump weren't so steep, we might have an arc like this, okay? So with a flatter arc, there's less up to down motion with the bike, which makes it less scary. With this steeper arc, this means we're going to have a little bit more bend in our elbows up near the top portion of the arc here. And that's what happened with Chris here. He basically kind of runs out of space in his arms. And it wasn't really due to his ridership. It was more due to the fact that his arms are only so long. Chris isn't a really tall guy. And so we're going to make a little bit more space here by starting to throw a little bit of style into the mix. Again, just one more time, we'll just watch this through here in slow motion. So this is the before video. We see him get pulled forward here. Even though he looks like he's in a pretty good position, by the end of the jump here, he's actually being pulled forward fairly aggressively by the bicycle. So essentially, we're going to need to make more space. And what I talked with Chris about doing here was starting to create a little bit of counter-directional steering in the air, a little bit of movement in the air. And essentially, that's going to allow him to not just go on the preset path that the bicycle was going to take on its preset path through the arc. He's actually going to be able to change the arc a little bit. He's going to be able to create a little bit of movement in the body, and this is going to create a lot healthier outcome for him. So we'll take a look at that as he starts to get that going. And here we are a few hours later with Chris. He's really got some nice movement going with the bicycle here. You can really see that style starting to kick in. And what he's actually doing here is he's actually changing the arc of his trajectory slightly so that the arc becomes a little bit less peaked at the top. By creating some counter-directional steering off the jump lip here, he's able to essentially blow off a little bit of energy while also getting the bike to move sideways. So he's getting a lot more style here, but most importantly, what we want to notice here is that he's not running out of space in his arms. So in the previous time, he was definitely struggling a little bit to not be pulled forward. Here we can see he's very comfortable. He's got nice motion going and something to do in the air. And that's one of the things about creating style in the air, is as we start to get comfortable enough to make movements in the air, we actually stop freezing up so much. So we actually start to get a lot healthier outcomes. And a lot of this is just because we're actually moving. So Chris's body is actually moving here as he's jumping. And this is keeping him from just kind of waiting for the bike to make the arc. This is going to allow us to stay more relaxed. It looks cool, but most importantly, it's going to keep us a lot safer. Again, the thing we want to notice here is that his arc is just slightly less peaked at the top. So he gets a really nice kind of gently rounded arc over this jump, which is actually quite a big jump on a double black diamond run here in the Pacific Northwest. So nice job, Chris. Really nice difference between you before and after there with just a bit of movement on the bike. And this is really one of the reasons why I stress with riders that at some point you should start getting some style in there, some movement in the air, because when we do absolutely nothing, we kind of have a tendency to freeze up a little bit, but we're also at the mercy of the bicycle just kind of taking its exact arc through the air, which works fine when we're beginners, but as we get a little bit more advanced, and we get on to bigger jumps with steeper takeoffs, it becomes really important that we're creating some movement in the air. In order to get this started, make sure you're comfortable on basic jumps first and that your arms are super relaxed. Riders often ask me, like, when am I ready to start getting some style in the air? And I tell them it's when you're jumping a jump line smoothly and safely and consistently, and you feel that your arms, chest, and shoulders are relaxed. If we have a lot of gripping with the hands, arms, and chest, shoulders, that whole part of the body, we're simply not going to be able to move in a nice fluid way like Chris is moving here. So work on going out first and just getting relaxed in the air, making some nice basic jumps, and then just starting to get a little bit of movement, and then eventually you'll be able to bring it into a nice bit of a whip like this.